Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Furr, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
So, I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the GlowCloud team.
Welcome everyone. Today we're here for another cloud computing career question and answer session. Perhaps you want to become a cloud architect or a solution architect or an enterprise architect. We're here to help you build the ultimate cloud computing or architecture career. And even if you want to be a cloud engineer or a network engineer, we can help you with that too. My name's Mike Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers, and I've been in technology now for over 25 years. And for more than 2 decades, I've helped people build elite technology careers. I can tell you right now, the students that we've coached in the last few years are now working at Amazon, Microsoft, Cisco, IBM, Google, Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Capgemini, the British Broadcasting Company, JP Morgan Chase Bank, Barclays Bank, and many, many other elite organizations. And at this point, almost every single day, and I've got another student that gets hired, and in most cases, salaries that you wouldn't even believe were possible because of our focus on leadership, communication skills, sales skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence, and applying the technology to solve business problems, as opposed to just being a techie. Before we begin, I want to tell you about a couple free things that I want you to take advantage of. In the description of this video, and actually in the chat box, Tyrone is going to put a video a document for you on why tech skills are not enough. Had a student the other day that got a $404,000 job offer, and believe me, it wasn't from the tech skills. He'd been working in tech. This is triple his previous earnings, and it came from the business acumen, the leadership, the sales, executive presence, etc. And I want you to get the best jobs and have the career of your dreams. So please download that completely free guide. And while we're at it, please download the completely free guide on how to get your first cloud architect job. So the reason I come here once a week, and I bring Alonzo from my team is, I want you to get the best job ever. And I know in the beginning of my career, here's what I did. When all the other techies were focused on getting millions and millions of certifications, I scheduled a meeting with the vice president of network engineering and architecture in those days. And I said, what is the perfect network architect? What is the perfect set of skills? And he gave me a list of things. 6 months later, I was lead architect, and I'd been practicing medicine before that, so that's as soon as I began in technology. 7 months later, I was a lead architect on Wall Street, designing the largest market makers in the NASDAQ systems, and within 2 years, I was a principal architect. And it all came from asking the right guidance to the right people who had already been there, who had already made it. So they told me what to do, so I didn't do what most people do, which is make a decade or 15 or 20 years worth of career mistakes. I found those that are successful. In fact, my recommendation is always, if you ever want to know how to get there, don't ask an associate. They don't know. They haven't been successful yet. Don't ask a regular architect. They don't know. They haven't been successful yet. Find a principal architect, a director, a VP, and ask them how to be successful because they've already made it. So bring us your questions so we can shave years of mistakes off of your career, help you earn more, and help you get your dream job. While we're waiting for your questions, and we should be getting questions from LinkedIn as well as YouTube, I'd like to introduce you to my Chief Marketing Officer, Alonzo Coleman. He's a rock star in every way. He's got 33 years in marketing, and he helps our students build such elite brands that our students don't even apply for jobs. The world comes to them. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Alonzo, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, yeah, thanks so much for that awesome introduction, Mike. I don't know if I can do it better for myself, but I will try. Everyone, again, my name is Alonzo Coleman, Chief Marketing Officer for Go Cloud Careers. It has been my distinct honor and privilege to be able to help people evolve, polish, create awesome brands for themselves that's representative of this amazing development training that we provide here. So we focus a lot on who you are, how you communicate, your soft skills, emotional intelligence, the ability to adapt to austere corporate environments that may not be ideal in any situation, how to face arguments, how to deal with people who may not have the same type of work ethic as you. How do you handle these situations? How do you become the leader to be able to more or less get these butterflies, which are varying executions of personality or work ethic? How do you get them to fly in formation to ultimately realize the architectural enterprise or other and realize those goals for the company? So these are the things that I am charged with, and I really, really enjoy doing this. And also, I also do cloud architecture as well. So being able to incorporate and marry these two skill sets and realize these things for people has been my joy. So without further ado, I really am interested in your questions, what your concerns are about cloud architecture, your development, and the overall soft skills needed to get you to where you need to be.
Wonderful. So bring us your questions so we can help us. And while you're at, tell us where you're at in the chat box. I see Ronald Grant's in Kingston, Jamaica. Boy, does that sound good right now.
Oh, man, that is one of my favorite places.
Mine too. Kingston and Montego Bay. In fact, I woke up this morning. I cooked my eggs in olive oil because I'm Greek, but then I soaked some bammy in coconut milk, and I made some bammy, and I drank some Jamaican turmeric tea. And boy, that kind of made my joints feel better, so I could go out to the physical training place this morning and get my workout in. So New Zealand, I haven't been to Auckland in a while. I've been to Brampton, Canada before. UAE, fantastic. I used to work in Dubai off of Sheikh Zayed Road. Montreal, Canada, fantastic. Salvador, Brazil. Andre, welcome. Awesome. Orlando, Florida. Steve's fantastic. I'm in Florida, in Edmonton, Canada. Beautiful.
You got a lot of Canadians here today, Mike.
And of course, Kingston, Jamaica, one of my absolute favorite places in the world. Mr. Businessman, I know you where you are in Atlanta. I am thrilled to see you here.
Dougie.
And Douglas is in Arlington today. Fantastic. Douglas is a phenomenal enterprise architect, a student of mine. He works with me on some special projects, and he actually got to visit me in Florida, so I loved it. Charlotte, North Carolina. Almost bought a house by the Speedway there many, many years ago when I was working in architecture for banking, of all places. So ask us your questions, and please ask them while we can, because we always run out of time. Look, the reality is people try to schedule one-on-ones with me, and even at $1,200 an hour, it's 17 weeks of a wait. So please ask these questions. I truly want to change your lives and careers. And Denver, Colorado, another fun place. So Tyrone back there, you want to bring in the first question from either LinkedIn or YouTube?
From Rajan, Mike, who cloud and DevOps overlap? How does cloud and DevOps overlap each other?
Okay, so Rajan, I want you to think of them as two different worlds.
Yeah.
Cloud computing is really the following. A cloud is nothing more than somebody else's network in a data center where they rent you space in. That's it. So if you have a current data center like an organization does, here's the thing. It's a data center. It's got servers and storage area networks in there and firewalls and load balancers and everywhere in between. And they put a thin layer of control plane cloud software. And then when you spin up a virtual machine, it pulls it from the compute capacity. I'd like you to think of cloud computing as a hotel where they rent rooms to you, because all what it is to me, a cloud computing client, is to pull and rent space in the cloud. Now, DevOps is a culture. It's a series of processes that merge as the operation side of the world and software development. So it's a culture and a merging of DevOps and of development and operations. So where is the intersection? There is none. But let me tell you how they actually come together. In cloud computing, we have 1,000,001 careers. And guess what those careers are? The same ones that exist in the data center, meaning we have software developers, we have architects, we have engineers, we've got security engineers, network engineers, big data engineers, and everywhere in between. Now, the DevOps methodology and processes to bring software development to life work equally well in the data center, and they also work in the cloud. But DevOps is about automation. So if I had a data center and I installed the OpenStack client software, I could have one of my engineers, cloud engineer or DevOps engineer, write a Terraform script, which is infrastructure as code, and spin up 1,000 virtual machines in about 5 minutes. And that works in the data center or the cloud. So the reason DevOps overlaps with cloud computing is because it would overlap with any other tech job, whether it be the data center or the cloud. And because the DevOps world enables us to do infrastructure as code, it works really well in a cloud computing environment. But there's been DevOps engineers for a long time that are off the cloud, DevOps engineers on the cloud, and they do the same thing. There's nothing special about cloud computing. You're just running somebody else's stuff. In the data center, we have physical servers. In the cloud provider, they have physical servers. In the data center, we virtualize our servers typically with the VMware hypervisor or the KVM hypervisor or the Windows Hyper-V hypervisor. The cloud providers have their own, like AWS is the Nitro hypervisor. Kind of like the Who song, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, same thing, only the names have changed. So that's really the intersection of cloud and DevOps. So you really need to figure out what career you actually want. Now, I don't recommend engineering careers right now or DevOps careers, and it's not that I don't like engineering careers, it's that I do. But I want you to think of this. The architect cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. The architect has to meet with stakeholders, ask them about their business goals. They've got to lead large teams. They've got to give presentations, do executive briefings, obtain customer requirements, and sell. None of that can be done by artificial intelligence, but software development work can be done by artificial intelligence. In fact, Douglas from my team just the other day, I made a video and it had no audio. So I said, Douglas, and it was really low audio. I said, Douglas, who's an audio engineer, can you fix this? And instead of fixing it like the audio engineer that he was, the little techie in him said, I'm going to use artificial intelligence to write a bash shell script to do it automatically in Linux. And he did it, which was really, really cool. I'm totally impressed and proud of him, but that's the key. So I recommend making sure that if you're going to do an engineering career, you be the best you can, as well as focusing on your soft skills, business skills, and those types of things. And again, if you're an architect, you're not getting hired unless you've got soft skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence, business acumen, those sort of things. So that's where they interact with each other. As far as whoever asked the question, Firewall Guyan, please translate your acronyms into actual English words that we can understand. Acronyms cause errors. VM, virtual machine, voicemail, vulnerability management, and one of 1,000 things. So Firewall Guyan, we're going to skip to you until you translate your acronyms into English, because I don't want to make any errors. When I first learned to practice medicine, which was my career, people used to write MS on a chart. And it could have meant multiple sclerosis, and it could have meant morphine sulfate, and it could have meant a lot of things. You know how many people died when they got overdosed on morphine sulfate when they were really talking about multiple sclerosis? So I don't do abbreviations. I don't do acronyms, and architects never use them in their business. Right. So translate for us to what you really mean, and I'll do anything I can to help you.
Especially when it comes to documentation, when a lot of corporations are looking for that would aggravate them beyond words when they just need the financial understandings of how it's going to affect their business. From Nate Ricks, Mike, I have completed my MBA in Business Process Innovation, and I am currently enrolled in a cloud computing bootcamp. I want to sit for this AWS Associate Architect certification. Is there advice for me?
So, Nate, I want to know what you want to do. There is nothing in the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional that will prepare you for any career. So if you tell me which career you want, then I can tell you exactly how to get there. So here's the thing. Certifications are wrapping paper on a beautiful gift, like the little bow you put on top, but the certification doesn't teach you anything that you need for any career. Now, you need to get that knowledge, and that knowledge is very different for the architect versus the engineer versus the developer versus the big data engineer. So I need to know what you desire to do. Now, if you're looking for recommendations of the things you could do, I can also tell you what you need to do, but I need to know your goals. Because right now you're just saying, I have this. Now, okay, so you want to be a cloud architect for a supply chain. That's what you put in the chat box.
Okay.
Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is if you try to be a cloud architect for the supply chain, you'll never get a job. Because cloud architecture is about improving organizations' business performance through the use of technology, and supply chain is only one piece of it. So first you need to become a cloud architect, and then we can migrate towards the supply chain. So first we're going to need to know, you're going to need to know architecture. And I want you to join us on that free webinar. Now, on the Certified Solution Architect Professional, there is no architecture. There's zero in there. It's the name of a service and how to configure that service, which architects don't do. So first, Nate Ricks, we have to realize that 98% of organizations use more than one cloud, which means 2/3 of the nonsense that's in the AWS certifications you can't use. For example, DynamoDB does not work in multi-cloud. Neither does Amazon Aurora. Neither does AWS WAF. Neither does ECS or any proprietary anything. So keep that in the back of your mind. So what you're going to have to learn are the networking and the data center components. Everything from server virtualization to storage area networks to databases, the kind that you could use, to the security things like firewalls, VPN concentrators, IDS, IPS. And Nate, download that link, and guess what? It'll tell you all the things you need to learn. Now, the next part of this is you actually need to learn how to apply this technology. What does that mean? Well, first you have to learn how to interview the customer to find their business goals, pain points, and challenges. Then you got to learn how to interview the client to find out their strategic vision. Then you need to figure out how their business processes work or their business architecture. Then you need to determine what the future business architecture is going to look like. Then you need to do a gap analysis between the current architecture and the future architecture and figure out what needs to be done. Now, while you're doing that gap analysis, you have to assess that organization's readiness for change, the sophistication of the people, the current systems and people that they may need as part of their team. Then you design an actual architecture. Okay, they're going to need 1,000 servers, and you keep it as servers. They have 2 petabytes of storage. Well, are they going to create? Where is that storage? What kind of storage they need? What kind of storage performance they need? If it's going to be high performance, either we need to build them a private cloud because we can't do good high performance storage in the cloud, or we got to use RAID again, which is really not covered in those certifications either. So we got to optimize and determine what that needs to look for. Then, once we have that architecture, we got to go socialize that architecture with the executives, talk about all the stakeholders. Then when we know exactly what they want, then we go to our cloud store, which is no different than going to a grocery store, and we swap out virtual machines for EC2 instances or Azure virtual machines or Google Compute Engine instances, figure those in. Then we go back to present it to the customer. We go sell it, we negotiate the contract, and once it's done, we go to the new contract. So join us on Thursday for the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect job. And then also join us here. But I want to make it very clear to you. If your path is certification, you will never get any job of any kind. Because there's nothing in a certification other than the name of a service and how to configure that service, which guess what? Cloud architects don't do. And even if they're cloud engineers, they're not going to be configuring it like in the course. They're going to be using Terraform and deploying it as infrastructure as code. So now you know. So please download that. But Nate, I'm going to tell you, you don't need experience. I can tell you Ivan Tamba, worked as a waiter before we got him hired. Jordan Kitko, college student before we got him hired by AWS. I can tell you that Coyote, another college student hired by AWS without experience. And we don't get people associate architect jobs, we get them real jobs. I can tell you that Jennifer Emo, mental health tech, working for JP Morgan Chase. Daniel Bosa, we got him hired by JP Morgan Chase. He never even graduated high school. Wallace Pagano, we got him an enterprise architect job, again for JP Morgan Chase. Balwinder, a stay-at-home mom who we got hired at Microsoft, for example. And I can give you example after example and do this all day long, but I'll fill up the time. The point is, it's competency that matters over experience. If you've got more questions, Nate, I'd love to answer them.
From Ahmed, how important is AWS certification to become a cloud engineer?
Certifications don't matter. Your knowledge matters. Now, an architect and an engineer are exactly opposite. If you're going to be an engineer, I don't care if you've got a certification, but here's what I do care. Engineers build, architects design. While a cloud architect doesn't need to know Linux, you better know Linux and know it well to be a cloud engineer, almost to the Linux admin level. You must know Terraform and know it well to be a cloud engineer. You must be able to write a Bash shell script, a Python script, and a Windows PowerShell script to be a cloud engineer. You must know the network in order to be a cloud engineer. And you must know the data center to be a cloud engineer. And you need to know how to build to be a cloud engineer on AWS, Azure, and Google. Those are cloud engineering skills, and the certification is wrapping paper. We use certifications, and we typically recommend one cloud certification and another one based upon your actual goals outside of the cloud to help you get an interview. Because there is some value in the certification to get you an interview, but there's nothing that they teach you in there. Now, I've gotten a lot of people hired, lots of people hired that have no certifications. I got Delroy Bad, a cloud security architect job, no tech experience whatsoever. He worked as an EMT, but he got a huge job with no experience, but he was competent as can be. I got Jeffrey West, a really great cloud architect job at Kellyan, but he had a cloud practitioner, nothing beyond that, but he was competent. He took our training. So kind of keep that in your mind. It's not about certifications. It's about competency. You are the present. You can think of the certification as after you put wrapping paper, the certification is a little bow that you put on the present. Now, if you give someone like your wife, for example, an empty box with pretty wrapping paper and a bow, I promise you, you're in the doghouse and you're going to be spending the next week trying to apologize for that. When you go on a job interview and all you've done is certifications, it's just as bad. They thank you for coming in. They'll tell you something polite like, come back when you have more experience, which means I can't hire you. Now, they wouldn't have interviewed you if they didn't think they could hire you, but they'll send you home and there's there. So develop the competency, Ahmed, and you're going to do great, 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 great.
From Arun, does your training include cloud security as well?
Arun, we cover security on the cloud and off the cloud to the level of the CISSP, because we feel that's kind of the minimum level of security. We pretty much cover that. We wouldn't be getting people hired if we didn't cover security. In fact, when our cloud providers interview our students, and we're talking all the cloud providers, and they see our student security knowledge, how it goes way beyond anything that's in one of their advanced security, which isn't even an intro to certificate security, they get hired. And our students are getting hired in Canada almost all the time, the US, South America, Central America, Africa, all over Africa, especially South Africa, all over England, all over Europe, all over India, Pakistan, other parts of Asia, and of course, Australia and New Zealand. So yes, we can get you hired and you'll do fantastic. But of course we cover security. Of course we cover networking. Now, and our program is between 500 and 700 hours. And that's why we get such good results. A silly boot camp for a certification is 30 hours or something like that. It's not enough to develop any career. So the key is make sure that you're there. We would love to train you. I can easily get you hired. You know, a week ago, we got 2 weeks ago, we got someone a $404,000 architect job.
Yeah.
Now, I've gotten people in my private clients above that, but that's the record out of the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Now, if you think about it, a $400,000 job for training, which costs $2,500, that's some serious return on investment. Because 20 years at that salary is $8 million on a course that somebody paid $2,500 for. So we'd love to work with you. But the reality is normally we're dealing with about $150,000 to $175,000 as a first job. But we get people with no background and we get them hired, and we get people that have 15 and 20 years experience. And then we get them $300,000 and $400,000 jobs as a role. But we can easily help you get to your goals.
From Emperor Kiro. So I wanted to know how to become a security architect. What is a great certification for me beginning my career towards security architect? Mike, if you would allow me, let's look at this. Emperor Cairo, you don't need, everyone is talking about certifications these days. Everyone wants to leverage the value or perceived value of a certification. It's not your certification that's going to get you the job, everyone. It is your competency. Okay, one of the best examples that I like to share with everyone is that you have someone that is very ill and you need the best doctor that can be found out there, and you have two people in front of you when it comes to medical interviews. One has certifications all the way up to the ceiling. They don't say a word and they just let their certifications speak for themselves, and they just push it right in front of you for review, as opposed to another doctor who will tell you a diagnosis, prognosis, the right type of medicine, treatment, care, facilities, time for the 0.01 of them being ill to the point of total recovery, and being able to showcase use cases and overall competency on how to get there. Personally, I'm going to go with that person right there, because they're showcasing me their competency, their ability to get the job done, and not relying on these certifications to provide value for who they are as a professional. Everyone needs to rely on what they can do, how they can do the job, and not interpret that value based off of these certifications. Now, moving on to being a cloud architect, our ability to get that done through our development program, it's what's going to get you there as a security architect. There's going to be far more things needed. Say, for instance, let's use AWS as an example. Their example of a firewall is the AWS WAF or WAF Advanced. And then if something breaks into that environment that it's supposed to protect, it has AWS guard duty to let you know that it was broken into. Now, mind you, it'll let you know it was broken into, but it does not mitigate that risk. It doesn't stop that intrusion, whether it be DDoS, man-in-the-middle attacks, or whatever. You're going to need something far more different than that. You're going to need multi-layered security from next generation firewall organizations. You're going to need to be able to understand what that looks like, how it responds, how it mitigates, how it involves intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. These are the things that you will not learn with these certifications. Now, as a AWS multi-certified holder, if anyone has done any of these certifications, they realize that all the answers are AWS related. That's not realistic because 98% of these industries out here are using multi-cloud implementations. So if you're only relying on one cloud service provider, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. It's a single point of failure. And 98% of them are using different clouds. So if that's the case, you just pigeonholed yourself into only holding AWS positions or anything like that. And there's far more jobs with that are commanding far more salaries than just focusing on these cloud service providers. So sorry for hijacking that mic. I just wanted to share that information.
No, and I think it's great. Alonzo, we trained him. He came to us after getting certification. We trained him and got him a cloud job. After he was done he's working as a cloud architect, and I'm like, Alonzo, so you're like my twin brother. I need you back in this company. What I got to do to get you? And I stole him back because, Alonzo and I are very tight. We could be twins, honestly. Our thinking is the same.
Very, very much.
So, Emperor, you have to realize here's what being a security architect is. It's walking into a client and finding out, their goals. It's learning what assets they have that needs to be protected. Is it intellectual property? Is it something else? It's learning about the number of clients they serve and what their data means to them. And it's understanding the cost of a breach to either their brand or their business. And then it's developing a strategy to keep their organization secure. What do their demilitarized zones need to look like? How do they need to be architected? Do we need an end-to-end encryption strategy, whether it be storage encryption, networking encryption? How do we determine how the users are going to get on the network? Who are they? What are they authorized to do? And how do we keep track of it? How do we lock down our endpoints? Do we need anti-malware? Do the systems need to have services disabled on them, for example? What are we doing on the endpoint protection side? What are we doing with regards to segmentation or micro-segmentation of their systems? We've got much better security off the cloud than on the cloud because the cloud's a shared system. So what can we do? Do we need to drop our environment to 1,000 VPCs and run routing between them to further limit them? Do we need to train the people in the organization against anti-phishing and anti-social engineering campaigns, for example? What is going to be in the security policy, what it is? So in order to become a security architect, you're going to need education. You could take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program and we could easily help you become a great cloud security architect, but you're going to need that. Now, Emperor, I want you to understand this. We are not engineers. And as soon as we implement security, it changes the way people live, work, and play. So we have to redesign the workflows with the architecture team to accomplish this. We have to build the business case because believe me, nobody's going to say, Mike, I want to buy $50 million of your security gear. And believe me, my architectures have $50 million of security gear. So I got to go build a business case for that. We're going to be presenting at conferences, presenting in executive briefings. We're going to be writing thought leadership documents. You're going to need the business acumen training for that. So you could take our course or you could do what I did. And I'll tell you what I did is I actually learned architecture in the practice of medicine because how you get a patient healthy and keep them healthy is pretty much the same way you make a business healthy. But I started with that. Then I learned tech. Then I went and got an MBA. And then I had about $100,000 of leadership training, sales training, executive presidency, Excel relevancy training after that. Or you could take our training. But make sure your focus is on system design and improving business performance. And all your education needs to be there. Remember, we're not engineers. We don't build it. We don't touch it. We design it. And, learning how to build, people think it's going to help them. But it doesn't teach them the design. And here's why. I can teach you how to configure firewall rules. I can. But when I teach you how to configure a firewall, that doesn't teach you how to ask your client about their security needs. It also doesn't teach you how to design their demilitarized zones. It also doesn't teach you how to design an encryption strategy. It teaches you how to build a firewall rule. So the real secret is learning how the tech works and how the pieces and parts are put together so that the sum of all parts is greater than any single part. It's synergy. So you got to learn the tech. but it's what the tech does and how the tech works, not how to configure it. That's the secret. Great question. And I'm so happy to answer any more if you desire.
From Chadi, hello. I want to know about best practices to go for to do portfolio and CV as a fresh graduate who will work as a DevOps engineer.
Okay, Chadi. So let's be fair about project. The second I see a resume that's got projects on it, I throw it in the trash. I'm not hiring artists that are going to show me the work. I'm hiring engineers. So when I see projects on there, here's a resume. I literally look at it and it's trash because it's like, who's the person trying to kid? And so the key is I look for competency. Now, I am not a DevOps engineer. If you desire to become a DevOps engineer, I recommend Sandeep Das. He's got a great YouTube channel and he's super smart and he does a lot of work with DevOps engineering. But I will tell you this. If you're going to be a good DevOps engineer, you need to have very good DevOps tool set and you need to be a serious developer before anybody will take you seriously. So I would try to find a really good DevOps program, a program where you can list the things that you've done under that program. So like if you're a Go Cloud career students, our students become associate solution architects. And underneath that, they have an opportunity to talk about the systems they've designed for banks, the systems they've designed for healthcare providers. It's not like they're going to put a project section on the resume. They're going to have it under there looking like a job. And when they do it looking like a job, it's relevant work experience. So I would say find a good DevOps program, and I would ask Sandeep Das. I typically try to keep people out of development careers. And the reason I try to keep people out of development careers, and I consider DevOps to be a development career, is DevOps is taught to every college student everywhere in the world. So there's 1,000,001 programmers that know development. Artificial intelligence can't do architecture, but it can do DevOps like nothing, and it can also do development like nothing. So if you want to be a DevOps engineer, I'd consider strongly going to Sandeep Das, because that's my work. I've been trying to convince people for the last 20 years to look at what's called the supply and demand curve. You know, in business and economics, we've got this supply and demand curve, and you've got these two intersecting lines. The greater the supply, the lower the price at a given demand. Given that there's millions and millions and millions and millions of developers and DevOps engineers, and the demand isn't that great, it's going to be harder to get a job and it's going to be a lower paying job than if you focused on something else. But if you love development and you love operations, it's great. But don't just pick it because somebody told you it was a good career. I at least want you to be aware of the economic factors like artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence cannot and will not ever replace architects because of the human element of the job. But you want to write a Terraform script? I can do it on the fly with artificial intelligence, and that's a lot of what DevOps engineers do. Keep that in the back of your mind. And Sandeep Das is a great resource for DevOps.
From artificial consciousness, I like that. My name is Ken. I got into the tech field after 20 years in the furniture industry.
Love
then
that.
went back to school so that I can get into the tech field. Currently, I'm in the GRC space. Please elaborate what that is for our audience as well as yourself. With approximately 4 years of experience and would like to get into the cloud space. I'd like to get into the cloud architecture field, but specialize in security and auditing. Okay. Is that okay? That's the end of it.
Yeah, please let us know what you mean by GRC. It could be governance, risk, and compliance. It could be about one of 15 other things. So again, we need to use precision communication when we're architecting, practicing medicine, or doing anything for real. So I need to know. Now, I'll promise you one thing. Architects are not auditors. They're the exact opposite of auditors. So an architect is a system designer. And auditors, and more like a financial person. As a financial person, I build a plan to take somebody's money and grow it. An accountant determines where the money goes. Architecture and auditing are completely opposite sides of the spectrum. Kind of like the difference between a financial advisor and a CPA accountant. So let's find out what you really want. I don't want to make any judgments or guesses with your GRC because it could be one of so many different things. I don't want to make mistakes. Okay, so you said governance, risk, and compliance. So If you want to be an architect, let's understand that they're auditing, forget it. If you want to be a really good auditor, go to law school. Then you'll be the perfect governance, risk, compliance auditor, not an architect. Now, if you want to be an architect in security, it's about designing systems that lock systems down. And that means understanding how firewalls work, understanding how zero trust works, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, understanding endpoint type protection, understanding how you design the security policy, how you train the people, what types of security appliances are needed, what type of security softwares are needed, what type of encryption strategy needs to look for, how do you design the demilitarized zone for, say, the web, how do you design a demilitarized zone for remote access users, what kind of WAN technology encryption are you going to use, do you need to encrypt the WAN? If so, is it going to be a traditional IPsec over a private line WAN like we've done since 1998? Or is it going to be a SD-WAN with encryption? Or is it going to be a SASE WAN? So it's all about that. So first, learn how to sell. We teach this to our cloud architects. Learn how to lead, because you're going to be building large leadership teams. Learn how to present at conferences, because you're going to be doing it every day. You're going to have to learn how to respond to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs. You're going to have to learn how to design an architecture. And if you download that free ebook that we've got listed here on how to get your first architect job, it will apply for security. On Thursday this week, we're going to have a how to get your first cloud architect job. And we also teach cloud security architects and cloud network architects. And that'll be on Zoom. So we can actually have a face-to-face discussion, and we can ask you questions and truly get your background and figure out how you communicate, the way you present, and where your gaps are. Or I could tell you to take our cloud architect career development program, and you'll build yourself a beautiful cloud security architect career. So kind of keep this in the back of your mind. But it's a wonderful job and you'll love it, but you're not going to be in compliance as an architect. As an architect, you're going to be on the business side. The compliance, and architects are big customer-facing people. Compliance people are behind-the-scenes type. It's more of an operations, more of something for a lawyer. Think of accountant versus the financial person that's out there. You know, going to Goldman's, or a Goldman Sachs financial person that's going to go to your business and teach you how to build your business planning. Exact opposite careers. So make sure that it's good for you too. Great questions.
Okay. As a beginner in cloud computing, what level of mastery of cloud architecture do you think we need before applying for jobs?
Great question. So here's what I would tell my students, and all of my students can do this. If I told you right now, I've got a company with 200,000 employees. I need you to design a remote access situation for the remote access employees. I also need you to design a communication strategies to get somebody in South Africa speaking to an expert in someone in Portugal who simultaneously is dealing with some business systems that are on Australia. That's an architect that's ready for a job. If I asked you, how do we take a new business that's got $1 billion in funding and design the technology strategies to help them get closer to their clients and increase their sales, you'd be ready to be an architect. Now, if I told you we've got a tech company like Broadcom who just purchased VMware, how would you deal with the strategy to bring them in, deal with their overlapping IP addresses, which they probably have, their overlapping applications and their security things? How would you help plan that merger? If you can do that, you're a cloud architect. At the same time, you have to be able to negotiate a business deal, write a business case, and speak to a CEO, a CFO, a CIO, and a CTO to be there. Here's the reality. No one will hire you as an architect unless you can actually do the job. This is not a learn on the job. I've got people with no background hired almost every single day of the week, but we spend 700 hours with them. And people come reach out to our students to try to hire them because of our brand, our known reputation. And I've got a guy on my team, his name is Alonzo, that's so good with building a brand and teaching our students how to build the brand. They're there. And to be fair, you know, whether it's CIO magazine that comes to us and asks for information, or Forbes magazine that comes to us, or Information Week, or Tech Republic, or Tech Radar, we're in all these magazines constantly. We're in 150 magazines and TV stations last year. Not as paid ads, as people that actually asked us to write articles for them. So That's what we're able to get our students there. So that's the level. How would you design a system? How would you help an airline consider how they could reduce fuel costs? That's a cloud architect thing. So this is architecture. And that's really what people miss about architecture. They think it's engineering, but it has nothing to do with engineering. That's architecture. And if you can do those things, you're ready to be hired. If you can do them on your own, congratulations, you're ready to be hired. If you need training, we can help you get there too. But that's the level of knowledge you need to have to be hireable as an architect. It's a great question.
From Nate Ricks, what certification should I sit for after my cloud boot camp is completed? One of the things we want to share is, what do you want to do, Nate? We don't. First of all, we don't know what you want to do what type of facet of cloud architect you want to be, and second of all, it's the competency first. So once you get that nailed down, then it'll give us an understanding of what type of certification would be best for you. Do you want to be a networking architect, a cloud solution security architect, a generalist architect? What do you want to do with it? So before we're able to effectively answer that question, we need to know some information about you first.
Exactly. And Nate, please learn how to be an architect before you worry about another certification. If there's more than 3 certificates on a resume, I throw it in the trash because I know the person's focused on certification and not focused on their career, which is the exact opposite of what I want them. So what do you want to do? The certification is the last thing you should do. The first thing you need to do is learn how to be an architect.
From Inork, I need help to launch my career in IT. Again, Inork, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a cloud architect? Do you want to be an engineer? There's so many facets to IT that we need to get a very specific understanding of what you want to do in the future and how your decision is going to affect your career trajectory. As we stated with cloud engineers, with disruptive technology like ChatGPT, there's a strong indication, if not a imminent one, that engineers as we know it will no longer be needed because of the automation, because of the artificial intelligence and so forth. So before I get off track, let's find out what you want to be, and then we'll be able to answer your questions from there.
Exactly, Enoch. So your question, I just want to make sure you understand. If you said, Mike, which airplane should I get on at the airport? And I'd say, do you want to go to Cape Town? Do you want to go to Johannesburg? Do you want to go to London? Do you want to go to Bork? Do you want to go to Dubai? And we need to know that to tell you which plane to get on. Same thing. Tell us where you want to go, and we'll help you plot a course.
From Emperor Cairo again. Okay, if certification doesn't matter, any recommendations for someone trying to become a security architect with no experience?
Yes. Learn how to be an architect.
Yes.
And that means first learning the network and the data center because you learn how to secure it, and then learn all the technologies that people would use. Do we have to train the people? We always do. How do you determine what people's training needs are? You're going to have to get some training and education for that. Same way, how do you become a doctor? You go to medical school. You don't have a doctor that memorizes some questions and answers on a certification exam and poof, they're a doctor. They go to medical school. They get trained. So what are the security devices we use? Firewalls, IDS, IPS systems. How do they work? How do we apply them? How do we design a solution? What kinds of encryptions exist? Symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption. What do we use and when do we use it? What is an organization's security needs? I don't know until I determine what are they trying to protect. Do they have intellectual property that's worth $10 billion? If so, they're going to spend a lot of money to secure it. If they've got photos of my cat Cindy, as beautiful as she is and as cute as she is, I'm not going to spend millions of dollars to protect my cat Cindy. Now, it costs between $150 and $250 every person's information that's compromised in a security breach. If an organization has 15 million people, they're exposed to $150 to 15 million people in a complete and total security breach. How do you build a business case around that? Now, if so, how does that information need to be secured? That's architecture. Now in a certification, here's what you hear. Here's a firewall, here's how you turn it on. You will never do that as a security architect, so you're going to need training. You could do it in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. I'm sure you could also learn how to do it in other ways, but certification last. And here's the thing. I had a student She took the CISSP, which is my favorite of the security certifications. It's not a great certification, believe me. There's nothing in there that's going to teach you security, but it's a beautiful stamp to have on your resume, which is going to help you get an interview. She passed the exam in less than 2 weeks. She never worked in tech. She owned a grocery store. She worked in her mother's grocery store before she came here. And she passed it in less than 2 weeks because she knew security. So when you know it, it's good. So get yourself some security training. You can't use certifications as training anymore. Most certifications are taught by somebody on Udemy that never had the job, that doesn't know anything. In fact, half of those people that have courses on Udemy have come to us and asked us to train them to be an architect. I'm not joking. You can see it in our LinkedIn messages. But there's a difference between passing a certification, which honestly is slightly better than worthless, and learning the job, which is priceless. So I like to view the certification as this. Have you ever, and maybe you haven't played golf, but I know people that'll buy a $500 club to go hit a golf ball, but never learn to take golf lessons. And then I know somebody else with a $30 club that learned how to play golf and can hit that ball exactly where it needs to and still land it at a good length of time. That's what matters, not how fancy the club is. Now, granted, you give Tiger Woods a better club, Tiger Woods is going to do a better job with the good club than the bad club. Tiger Woods with a $5 club will outperform 99.99% of all golfers that are weekend golfers that have a $10,000 set of clubs because he knows the game. I don't care about the shine. I care about what's underneath. It's the engine in your car. The certification is like taking a broken down car which doesn't run and painting it with beautiful colors and putting pretty tires on it. And in the end, there's no engine. And you go to turn the key and you hear. So build the car, put a perfect engine in it, good suspension, good tires, good brakes. Then you paint the car. The certification is just the paint. Great question.
Well put, Mike. From a LinkedIn user, what is the cost of duration? What is the cost and duration of your training for cloud architect? Also, do you help with securing interviews after the training?
So let's break this down. The cost of our training is $2,500, which is exactly 3 days' pay of the average graduate. Because the average cloud architect salary is a little over $800 a day, or $218,000 on Glassdoor. Pretty close. Our average salary is between $150 now and $400. That's the range that we've gotten this year, for the most part. Most students on our program have 5 to 15 interview requests per week without looking for them, because of the branding work we do. Now, of course, we train you how to be an architect. Of course, we train you how to win the interview. Of course, we train you how to build the LinkedIn profile and your brand and your resume. And of course, we train you how to be an architect. That's why it's a career development program, because we teach everything. And it's about 3 days' pay for the average graduate. Now, here's something interesting. The average cloud architect earns more than a physician or attorney who both go to school for 7 to 10 years and take on $300,000 to $500,000 of debt. So we're pretty proud of being so inexpensive for the quality of education we receive. Like I said, I just had a student get a $404,000 job out of this $2,500 program.
And I just checked right now. This is always, and some of my our clients always know that I'm shooting this information out here. Currently, Glassdoor, and this has been an uptick since January 1st. The current salary with any years of experience across all industries with a confidence is $218,594. So imagine that breakdown of that's at least $16,000 per month and a minimum of $800 per day. So when you think about the cost of what you are investing, not only in your future, in your career, but your future and any type of maybe generational wealth you can incur by doing these careers, I think it's a drop in the bucket when you invest this type of program, which is effective. It's the shortest path to you getting and transitioning into becoming a cloud architect. And we focus on your competency and not on these certifications. And we've got the track record to prove it. And if you'd like to check out any of our prior clients who have successfully navigated through our development program, they're on YouTube, on our profile and our account. So Tyrone, if you could send a couple of those out there, Wallace Agana, Daniel Bosu. I could go on and on. So when you think about what you're putting into this versus what you're going to get out, is going to be a phenomenal investment in your future.
Yeah, and you can see about 5%, maybe 3 to 5% of our student successes on our YouTube channel. In a perfect marketing world, we get everyone out there and focus on it, but we focus on getting our students hired as opposed to really selling our product or testimonials. But you can probably see 15 or 20 or 30 testimonials on our YouTube channel.
From Igwanwu, hi Mike, how could one get a cloud job over 3 years of AWS, GCP, and AWS experience, but haven't gotten a certification of any yet?
Okay, so first, we need to know what cloud job you want because they all need different. Secondly, I don't care if somebody's got 50 years experience, I care about their competency. I know doctors that have been practicing medicine for 50 years that kill people every week because they're so bad. And I know doctors that are fresh out of medical school or still in medical school that save lives every day. That's competency versus incompetency. I get people with 0 experience hired every day, and I get people with 20 years experience hired. And sometimes it's a lot easier to take somebody with 0 experience and get them hired than it is with 20 years of software development experience where they have to unlearn and forget about all the engineering to now think like an architect. But do you want to be a developer? Do you want to be a security person? Do you want to be an architect? Do you want to be a big data person? Every one of these needs different skills. So experience, I don't care. I want to know what you want, and then we can build a plan on how to get there. But you got to be competent. That's the secret.
From Firewall Gyan, hey Mike, hello, hey Mike, architect does not need to have knowledge of configuration of different technologies like cloud, for example, firewall. If so, how can one provide best use case or design?
Okay, so we don't need to know how to configure a firewall, but we need to know what kind of firewall. For example, what is the throughput that I need in my firewall? Does it need to be 1 gig, 10 gig, or 100 gig? Is it enough to do stateful packet inspection? Or do I need to be a layer 3-4 firewall, or do I need a layer 7 firewall? Now, do I need that firewall to be adaptive in nature where can it be like an AWS WAF where a packet goes through, you've been hacked, and guess what? You've been hacked, and you get a bunch of CloudWatch alerts that you've been hacked, and you're still being hacked. You're just getting notified. You've been hacked, you've been hacked, you've been hacked. Or do I get a Palo Alto type firewall, which is a next generation firewall, that when it sees a pattern of behavior that looks abnormal, will create some new rules on demand. Now that Palo Alto firewall, how am I creating it? Does it need to be on its, how many subnets are we going to create on that firewall? Do we need to create a subnet for remote access users? Do we need to create a subnet for this? That's architecture. Now I'll tell you this, and here's the difference. So let's say, I want to show you the difference between configuration and knowledge. So bear with me, I'm going to get real geeky real fast. And this happens because I trained a lot of network engineers to be architects. And they're like, Mike, I want to learn to configure. And I say, great. Here, type these commands into a router. Router OSPF1, network 192.168.1.0, 0.0.03, area 0. Now, they've configured, and I said, great, you configured OSPF. Now I then asked them, tell me what type of LSAs exist in area 0, and they say, huh? And I say, what address is an OSPF hello? And they say, I don't know. And I say, well, a type 1 is a router LSA that's generated by each router. A type 2 LSA is an LSA that's generated by the designated router. A type 3 LSA is a summary LSA in between OSPF areas. A type 4 tells me how to reach an external area. And a type 5 LSA is an LSA coming from an external domain such as BGP. Now, of course, these routers have an init, xstart, exchange, loading, and full state. Now, would you learn any of that from learning how to configure router OSPF1, network 192.168.1.0.0.0.03? The answer is no. So you must learn how it works. Now, how do you minimize those things? So that's the key. Learning how to configure teaches you nothing of how to design. That's why the people that can configure skyscrapers, you know, the building architects that design the skyscrapers, don't get given a hammer, a nail, and a screwdriver and say, here's how you're going to actually do this. They design it and another team builds it. And as a cloud architect, you're never going to be there. So the key is You have to know how to design it. Design it. How do I design that shopping mall? How do I design the security environment? Design. Not how do I use a hammer or how do I configure the firewall? I've been designing architectures with firewalls for 20 years. I don't know how to configure any firewall. I don't need to. But I can tell you how the firewall works, the algorithm on each firewall, how they switch packets through every single firewall that exists that I've ever used, because I need to know that. I know how that firewall will interact with things that are on the host. Maybe there's a host-based IDS IPS system, which then sends messages to the firewall so the firewalls can use for monitoring. I know what kind of encryption strategy mine use, but I don't know how to configure a firewall. Why would I do that? There's an engineer that does that, that focuses on that. That's their job. I'm an architect. I focus on design.
Okay. From artificial consciousness, how can I get a cloud security architect, security auditor job with no experience and only 4 years of compliance knowledge, with 20 years experience in manufacturing and gaining in AABS, MS, and cyber past 6 years?
Okay, artificial consciousness. First, you can't get that job ever. You're either going to be a security auditor or an architect. So artificial consciousness, that's an impossible job to get. What you're really saying is I want to be an airplane pilot, a flight attendant, and the airplane mechanic all at the same time. You can't. So tell me which job you want. Do you want to be a cloud security architect? Great. Or do you want to be an auditor? It's a completely different skill set and a completely different day. So you tell me that, and then we'll get back to your question.
From Mark, good afternoon, gentlemen. Are there any six-figure cloud architect roles that are fully remote? My dream is to become a nomad remote worker who can live anywhere.
Mark, let me tell you about this. First, in 2003, I was earning about $250,000 a year remote as an architect, as a network architect / enterprise architect. And you can earn more than that today. Now, you're never going to be a completely digital nomad. And here's what I mean by this. I chose to live in Palm Beach. Now, the only thing in Palm Beach is golf, beautiful beaches, and a lot of wealthy people. It's beautiful, but there's no jobs here. So I was fully remote. So what did that mean? I'd go to London one day. I'd go to California another day. I'd go to New York City. I would go to Dubai. So you can live anywhere for the most part, that as long as it has good airplane access, but you are going to have to travel. Now, of course, the company will pay for your flights. They'll pay for your hotels. They'll pay for your meals and your rental cars. But of course, almost all the architect jobs are remote because there's no reason to go to the office. And engineering jobs, honestly, there's no reason for them to be office-based. The only reason companies are asking people to come to the office is people aren't working. In the US, labor productivity rates are honestly as bad as they've been for 30, 40 years. They're the worst they've ever been because people aren't working. And that's why people are being asked to come back to the office. Not because there's any benefit of having an employee in the office, but if you're paying people and they're not working, you're going to mandate they go to the office before you fire them. And that's sadly what's going on in tech in a lot of places. But yeah, honestly, fully remote. I've been fully remote since and actually, so in 1999 and 2000, I did go to the office. In 2001 to 2003, I was fully remote. 2003 to 2004, I went to the office 50% of the time. And I've not been back to an office ever since. So yeah, plenty of jobs that you can earn $200,000 to $500,000 a year where you never go to the office.
From AO, how do I become a competent architect without any prior knowledge in the field?
You get the training. How do you become a doctor without working as a doctor before? You go to medical school. How do you learn to fly a plane? You go to flight school. How do you become a lawyer? You go to law school. You take a course like ours, you'll be an architect. I got lots of people. So Noah Parker was a social worker. He was fun to get hired, but we did. Vladimir, we got him hired. No big deal. He was an architect. We recently, I can't mention his name because it was a week ago, and he's still with the company. But we got somebody else that worked in retail. He got his first cloud architect job. We also got a project manager, a lead architect job 2 weeks ago. Al Legister, for example, was selling tissues over at Kimberly-Clark. He's now a senior solution architect as his first tech job over there at Deloitte. I can give you example after example. You can look plenty of testimonials, and I gave you about 10 or 15 different names in the beginning. It's nothing to do with the right training, but with the wrong training. If you learn engineering and try to be an architect, you're going to say no. If you learn how to be an architect, you'll get hired as an architect. So it's all about having the right skills, knowing how to build the right brand and make people to get to you, and knowing how to interview so well and being so competent that when somebody gets you an interview, you win. That's the secret.
And I think another thing that, because we've showcased a lot of understanding that certifications are not the end all be all, they're not leveraging the golden ticket, if you will, to getting these jobs. So we have everyone understand that it's your competency, understanding what the cloud is, not a cloud service provider's understanding or offerings of what they do on the cloud. Okay. So if you know that there are other, when people think about firewalls, there's far more options that are agnostic, like Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet, checkpoints that do far more than just a broad-based understanding of a firewall applied on AWS. Now they have a full scope, they have a full suite of different services, but what's their specialty? They don't really have one. So these folks who actually focus on security, those are the ones with the robust next generation firewalls that incorporate intrusion detection, intrusion preventions, and being able to understand what those services are, how they work within an organization, how they're going to benefit that organization from a business transforms perspective. These are the things that you need to learn. So please don't emphasize or add more value to these cloud service providers than what they are. Know what the cloud is and how those services can enhance an organization.
Absolutely.
From Nate Ricks, does your program teach me to be an architect? That's all we do.
That's all we do. We teach nothing other than helping you be an architect and helping you get hired as an architect.
And understand, Nate, we're not in the certification business. We are not in the boot camp business. Our goal is to use what we know to get you hired. So you stay in our program until you do. You continue to be exposed to the facets of how to become a cloud architect and how to become a competent one at best. You'll see whiteboarding done, broken down by facets of the architecture, like networking, which is Mike's bread and butter. He is the consummate network architect. He spent decades formulating and perfecting that craft on how to maximize networking in an environment. You're going to understand security, how databases work, SQL, NoSQL, which ones are going to be the best according to the needs of the business, how they all come together, and much, much more. So you're going to learn how to be an architect and then some. And there was a particular client of ours who we've immersed so much into cloud architecture. I won't say his name because we don't know where he is in the hiring process, but he started to dream about how to become an architect and solve for architecture while he was sleeping. So you're going to be exposed to it via your continuous learning and on-demand content. You're going to learn about it through our live classes. You're going to be immersed in it through our Slack community. We're going to share content. We're going to share postings on LinkedIn about what's going on in the industry. Specifically, we talked about lately ChatGPT and what its disruptive yet transformative opportunities are for corporations and industries. What does that look like? How is that going to affect a business? These are going to be things that you're going to know. So comparatively, when it comes to classes that you can buy for $15, $20, $99 or whatever on Udemy, think about what that really means. Is that something that's going to be a facet of your understanding, or are you going to need a full suite, top to bottom, full life cycle of what a cloud architect is, from cloud architects who know what the position is and what it holds for you? From Ian.
Wow, I haven't seen Ian in a while.
I haven't seen Ian in so long, man, on the other side of the pond. He is a graduate of our program. From Ian, this program is real. I was in your shoes 2 years ago viewing Mike's videos. Mike called me back, and I enrolled in the awesome training. Now I'm living the life thanks to Mike Gibbs and husband team. My advice is just to invest in yourself with the best cloud architect on the planet, Ian Rowe.
Ian, thank you so much. Ian, I remember when we had our first conversation and how that conversation went, and I told you you'd be working as an architect in about a year. A year later, you have an enormous architecture career. You're a rock star in it. I hear all kinds of great things of where you're going. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure meeting you too, Ian. And I'm always wondering how you're doing, but you've answered. You must be clairvoyant because you've answered my question. I'm glad everything is well for you.
And I owe you a red stripe when you come to Florida, because I know you and I were planning on cooking some Jamaican food and having some red stripe here.
And this from Sani. For all who are on the fence on enrollment, do it. It's a great program. The training is unmatched. Thank you so much, Sani.
Thank you, Sani. We loved working with you.
Yeah.
And I know you had super special sales skills, which I told you would be an asset either as an architect or in enterprise sales. And you obviously followed the training. You did great. We're so proud of you, Sani, and an honor to work with you. I'm grateful for your nice comments.
Do we have any more questions? We definitely would love to answer anything that you all might have. Okay.
Bear with us as Tyrone actually finds the next question.
Okay.
There's a lot of behind the scenes systems that are going on out there. I can get to Will.
Okay, this is from Ian Jonathan. Do we need a CCNA level of networking for cloud jobs?
It depends on the job. If you're a cloud architect, the CCNA doesn't even scratch the surface of what you need to know. What you need to know is somewhere between the CCNP and CCIE level, which we teach in our course. If you want to be a developer, the CCNA may be too much. If you want to be a cloud engineer, somewhere between the CCNA and CCNP level. But again, that's just a certification. And here's what's taught in the certification: how to configure, not how the stuff necessarily works. So you do need substantial networking knowledge, but you're not going to get it out of the certification, except for the CCIE. And I don't recommend everybody do the CCIE, because here's what's going to happen. It's going to take you a year. You're going to read 75,000 pages, for example, and you're not going to be able to do it by yourself, and it's going to cost you a good $20,000 to do it. And your time would be better spent by learning just what you need versus the full CCIE things and improving your business acumen. If you go to salary.com, you can see the average salary of someone with good business acumen skills is $558,000 a year. So where do you really want to focus your time? Developing your business acumen and getting these big jobs? Or do you want to focus it on your next certification? I'm not a certification junkie, and here's the reason why. I'm about raising my client's salary. Like I said, in the last 2 weeks, we got someone a $404,000 job, but this is a principal architect job. At Google, it pays $508,000 a year. It's a job with business acumen. Here's a job of a senior director. Palo Alto, again, $540,000 a year. It's a job with business acumen. Architect jobs turn into this stuff all the time. Here's another senior director job. It's a business acumen job. $527,000 a year on average. Let's look at a principal architect at Microsoft. On average, $380,000 a year. So, I'll find Amazon is one of the lower paying ones, $372,000 a year. But that's the key. The key is the better your business skills, the better. So if you're focused on certification, your salary will never get above $100,000 to $50,000 a year. If you're focused on digital transformation of your clients, business acumen, leadership skills, you can easily earn $500,000 a year with a few years experience. So I need you to figure out which job you want. And then I need you to figure, because otherwise the skills required for every different job. And then we need to figure out what are the most highest value skills for those jobs. And we need to put you on that path. That's the key to a successful career. And here's the other thing. Everybody does the same thing. There's 1,000,001 people that are certified that know nothing. Become an expert and know something, poof, you stand out. Figure out now, how do I apply the technology to solve business problems? Poof, that's more for you. So I want you to be the best, and I want you to have the skills that employers are screaming for, not the stuff that the certification providers are trying to sell you, because nobody cares. I've asked about 6,000 hiring managers. Not a single one said they cared if somebody was certified. I've yet to find one that didn't care if somebody was competent or not.
From Kyle Jones, I am a senior cloud compliance analyst in a client-facing role and have used all major cloud providers. I will be in the role for 1 year on October 17th and plan to start transitioning into the cloud.
Well, wait, it sounds like you're working in the
cloud security architecture and really could use some guidance on how to achieve this.
Okay, the good news is that you're customer facing. Love that, because that's going to make it easier for you. It's challenging, more challenging for the people that are behind the scenes, but customer facing is a good thing. You will need to improve your business acumen, your leadership skills, your sales skills, your executive presence, and you're going to need architecture training. There's just no way you can do this on your own, because the stuff that's in all these certs are so irrelevant. You're going to have to find somebody that teaches you this. So, it's not just how does the next generation firewall work? How does the intrusion detection program work inside the firewall work? It's not just how does symmetric and asymmetric encryption work. It's what do I need for this business situation versus this business situation versus this business situation? And how do I do it? Like, let's say I need to secure a demilitarized zone for a web application. Well, in that particular case, how secure does it need to be? Is it a major bank's web application or is it Billy Bob's web application? If it's a major bank, maybe I need a network load balancer, 2 next generation firewalls from Palo Alto. Maybe I need another network load balancer and then 2 next generation firewalls from Checkpoint, for example. Then I might need another next generation firewall and 2 IDS IPS systems for logging information, just for the web app. Then I need to maybe create a subnet. Maybe I put an access control list that only allows port 443 in. And then I've got the server, and maybe on the server I need a host-based firewall for the load balancer. Or maybe I put it like a security group for the load balancer. Now I got the servers behind the firewall. What do I need to do? Do I disable unnecessary services? I'm sure I'm going to have to. Do I put some anti-malware things on that server? Do I put an extra host-based firewall and a host-based IDS? Sure. But that's just securing my web server. What about my enterprise? So those are the kind of things. You're going to have to get some training on how all the technology works and how to apply them together. That's architecture training. So get the download on how to become an architect. Attend the free webinar on Thursday, and we can actually talk to you about your experience and maybe even find you some gaps and figure out what specific things you need to do, because I want you to be successful. But people don't go from engineering to architecture by working as engineers and then just miraculously getting there. I've got students that have been cloud engineers for 10 years, and they take just as much training to become a cloud architect as when I get someone like Yvonne Tamba, who's working as a waiter, who's now over at AWS. Or Jordan Kitko, who's a college student who's now at AWS. It doesn't matter where your starting point is. It matters the decisions you make today, the things that you actually learn. And these are all great careers, and you will be successful. You just have to follow the right plan. But you will be successful, and you'll be great. But remember, anytime you're dealing with an elite career, and elite careers are things that pay $150,000 to $1 million a year, and yes, I know architects all over that range, you're going to need somebody to help train you. And it's not even training at that point. It's education and professional development or career development. It's not just like, if this, then this. Because these are big things. Because remember, you're going to have to talk to the CEO and convince them why they need your security. You're going to have to quantify their security problem to build a business case to show them. You're going to have to build a team of people to help you create the architecture, because you're going to deal with a network security person. Let's say she knows network security. And you're going to also have to deal with an application security person, because that's a different kind of security. And then you're the architect, but you're also going to deal with offensive security engineers, defensive security engineers that are going to build it. You're going to have to manage all those things as well as the client. So get some training, but you're going to be great.
From Aslish, I have 10 years experience as administrator on monitoring tools like Splunk, ITRS, AppD, etc., and have knowledge on Python and Unix. Now I'm willing to move into the cloud. I started with AZ900. That's an Azure certification, and want your guidance on proceeding further on cloud towards AI or security or DevOps, any other.
Well, here's what I want you to tell me. What do you want to do? You want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an airplane pilot? I have no idea. And each one of these things, do you want to do AI? What do you want to do in AI? Do you want to be a machine learning engineer? Do you want to be an artificial intelligence architect? Security, do you want to be an offensive security engineer, a defensive security engineer, or a security architect? Completely different training. DevOps, I strongly recommend you don't do it. And I would recommend everybody stay out of that kind of career. But if you want to do it, we can talk about that too. But, what do you want to do? It's not what you've done. I don't care what you've done. I care what you want to do. And, Ashlas, that's the thing that really kills more dreams and destroys more careers is, I used to do this. Here's what I'd like to do tomorrow. Ashlas, I used to practice internal medicine. I'm not joking. And before that, I used to be a firefighter paramedic. And then after that, I was a network engineer. And then I was a network architect. And then I was a business architect and an enterprise architect and a cloud architect. Sometimes I feel like just opening a wellness organization. I'm joking, but the point is you can be anything you want to be. I have friends that were Marine Corps snipers that the next thing you know, they're an airplane pilot. I have friends that were in the Marines that are now cloud architects as their first job. What do you enjoy? What are you passionate about? If you're not passionate about it, you won't be good at it. And if you won't be good at it, you won't have a good career. You have to love what you do, because to be great, you have to have laser-like focus. 2 light bulbs. Light bulb in left hand, light bulb in right hand. Light bulb in left hand has no focus on it, and it lights up my room. And I can see my cat Cindy, better because of the light bulb in the room. Light bulb 2 is focused by a ruby and fancy lenses. And I use that light bulb to do surgery, to cut steel in the form of a laser, because it's focused. I want you to have the same focus as a laser, because that's the key to being ultimately successful. But I really, really need to know what you want to do, because it's not what could you do. You can do anything. You want to be a lawyer? Sure. You want to be a doctor? Go to medical school. Want to be an airplane pilot? Go to flight school. Want to be a cloud architect? Go to cloud architect school. It's not what you did yesterday. Yesterday was a cheat day. I was really bad. I went to Miller's Ale House with my wife.
You're supposed to be bad on your cheat day, Mike.
And I had a hamburger and 3 sides of broccoli, and I even had it on a whole wheat roll. I was a wild man. Now, today, I woke up and I had 13 egg whites and blueberries for breakfast. For lunch, I had 8 ounces of turkey and a pound of vegetables. For dinner, I'll eat healthy. So the key is what I ate yesterday didn't affect what I ate today. And what you've done in the last 10 years has no bearing on what you want to do in the future.
So that's you being a wild man, right, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
That's you being a wild man.
It's about as crazy as I get.
Well, I as they would proverbially say, hold my beer. I think I can beat that. Okay. From AL, hi guys. After training, will I be competent enough to do the job when hired? Oh, man. Yeah.
You're going to be hired in the training. We don't have people that graduate and look for a job. That's horrible. That's what these horrible boot camps do. Daniel Bosu wasted $35,000 in a boot camp. I've got students that spend $5,000. I think Delroy spent $8,000 in a boot camp. He came to me and I retrained him. I've got another student that did some kind of master's in cloud computing from WGU, actually multiple students that are retrained. You will be hired while you're in our program, AO. Graduation for us is the day you are hired. That's what we call graduation. So yes, you'll be competent enough and you'll be hired while you're in the program, as long as you do the work. Now, I don't want to say just buying our program is going to be enough. You come to the program, do the work, you'll be hired in the program. Nate, how do you start?
Join us.
Simply click on the registration link. You'll get an email within 15 minutes from our servers. It'll tell you how to join our Slack community, because in our program, you're going to have live training 3 classes per week on Zoom. And that way we can teach you how to be an architect and we can do it interactively. In between our live classes, you'll have videos to do, you'll have documents to read, you'll have practice interviews to do where you'll turn information in. That's basically like an interview, and our team will give you feedback on it. There'll be resume projects. And of course, we will have some hands-on tech projects. And while configuring an EC2 instance in AWS will teach you nothing, we'll have you build your own cloud so you'll actually understand what a cloud is. We'll have you build your own technology that enables the cloud to actually learn that. And that's the secret, is how do I learn how the cloud works? Because you can't design what you don't understand. So we'll have, a lot of lab work for you to do as well, but it'll be real labs that are going to make you an architect, not fake labs that are just going to take up your time teaching you how to do somebody else's job, the job of a cloud admin. Sign up, do the work, and get hired. And we'd love to work with you, Nate. We'd be totally honored to do so.
From El Domicici, I guess. Hello there. I wanted to ask, what is your take on Internet of the Cloud and cloud? Internet of Things in the cloud.
My take, El Domicici, is the same as it's been for the last 20 years that I've been working with Internet of Things. It's a networking technology, not a cloud technology. The more sensors that are out there, the more we're going to be using them. So sensors, tags, weather devices, refrigerators that are IoT enabled, they're everywhere, and they're growing, and they're growing with exponential growth. So IoT will be huge. Now, IoT could be done in the data center. IoT could be done in the cloud. IoT can be done anywhere in between. But yes, IoT is absolutely critical. I'll tell you, the cloud's about 20 years behind from the IoT stuff we were doing at Cisco. The cloud is about 20 years behind on network. Maybe it's only 15 years behind on IoT. But IoT is major. IoT is everywhere, and you'll be using IoT as part of your career. That's a great question.
From Ipsita, what is the average time taken by professionals to get ready to be hired as an architect?
Now, that's a great question, Ipsita. We get people that have spent 2 months to 6 years before they come to us. And then in about 6 to 12 months, we get them hired as an architect. And we also get people that have never done anything in their life. And it takes us 6 to 12 months. So it's about 6 to 12 months in our training to get you hired as an architect, trained and hired. But, that's average. Richard Afukar came to me, and within 3 weeks, he was hired by AWS. Delroy Back got his first job within about 3 months, and then got his second job as a full architect in about a year in our program. Joe Millen, who was a dual CCIE, so he had a good, strong networking background, we got him hired as a senior solution architect with AWS. Ian Rowe took him a year. So the key is that you stay in the program until you're hired. You've got unlimited access to all the online materials, unlimited access to all the courseware, and a year's worth of training in the live class in our program. And graduation for us is the day you're hired. It's about a year, 6 months to a year. Could be more, could be less, based upon how fast you learn, how many hours per day you can study. And, I can read 1,000 pages a day, but not everybody can. So that's really the key, is how much you can do. And that's why I like to give this your mileage may vary, because I can lock myself in a room and read all day. At least I could before I hurt my back. But, and other people, would read that same 1,000 pages in a week or 3 weeks or a month. But you'll do great. We can easily get you to your goals.
All right, from Richard, folks flock to the cloud service provider certifications as a only routes to architect jobs. Why? That's all the job postings show at Mike Gibbs. Please shed light on this once more.
So, Richard, 25, 30 years ago, let me tell you what certifications were. When I did my first training, and I did a CCNP boot camp, I paid $11,000 for the 10 days of training. This is in 1998, maybe 97, 1998. It was taught by a Cisco certified internet expert that was working for an internet service provider that was also teaching. This person was real. They knew what they were doing. We were in classes. We asked questions, and we got something out of it. Now, did that get me hired? No. But at least I learned networking. Now you got cloud providers making video games. You got people making courses that have never worked in it except for their made-up jobs and then going to Linux Academy or some other thing, and all of a sudden they think they know something, but they've never worked in the field. And now all of a sudden they've got a Udemy course. People take the Udemy course, it's cheap, or at least they think it's cheap. They take the next cheap course, and 2 years later, they've racked up a bunch of certifications and no one has any desire to hire them ever. Now, here's the thing. They felt like it was cheap, and it was inexpensive in terms of dollar volume. Maybe they spent $300. The sad reality is the average cloud architect earns $218,000 a year. So in those 2 years that they wasted their time getting worthless and useless certifications, they lost $436,000 of potential earnings. But to be fair, certifications 20 years ago were different. There was 75,000 pages of reading that went into my Cisco certified internet expert. And it was a 2-day exam, and you had to prove you knew something. In today's world, I don't even need to know anything to pass the certification. I can go to one of like a dozen websites and get a copy of the exam. For about $300, I can get somebody to take the exam for me with a fake ID to look like me. And I get bombarded every day, 100% pass guarantee. Are you interested in certifications? And I laugh. Now, Richard, here's the funny thing. This was the hardest lesson for me to learn. Back in around 2008, my manager, who was a VP, who reported to a SVP directly to the CEO. So that tells you, in a company which normally had 15 levels to the CEO, you can see where I was in the organization. And my manager said to me, Mike, I'd like you to remove all the certifications from your business cards. And I was like, huh? I said, the CCIA cost me almost $40,000 and like 3,000 hours of study time. You know what he says to me? Do you want to be thought of as a technician or do you want to be thought of as an executive? He said, you want to be thought of as a technician? I can drop your salary to 150K. He said, you want to be thought of as an executive? Here's where you're headed. So I wanted to be thought of as an executive. There's where it took me, and it changed my life forever. Now, Richard, there's a poem by Robert Frost. In the poem, he said, I took the road less traveled, and it made all the difference in the world. Everybody that follows the same path turns themselves naturally into average. Average is what everybody does. The elite are that top 1 or 2% that have those special skills that nobody does. So I never try to be average. I never follow the pack. In fact, many years ago, when I spoke to the VP, I got my first tech job and I said, how do I become the ultimate architect? He said, you have 2 options, Mike. He said, you can become the sheep or you can become the sheep herder. He said, the sheep all do the same thing. They get followed around in a pack. The sheep herder sets the plan and guides the sheep. He said, the sheep go and waste their time, effort, and money on getting certified. He said, the sheep herders focus on what the tech can do for the business. They develop their business acumen, their leadership skills, their sales skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence. He said, I can tell you right now, I don't think you're a sheep. He said, I think you're a sheep herder. So take me seriously, and where will you be? Well, Richard, 2 years later, I was a principal architect. I showed you what a principal architect salary is. And in case you weren't here, maybe you weren't. But here's a principal architect salary at a cloud provider. Microsoft is say 380. And Google's roughly 500. Let's see if I can find it offhand. Google's roughly 500 for a principal architect. And I was there in 2 years. So I like that Robert Frost said in this poem, I took the road less traveled and made all the difference in the world. I don't worry about what everybody else does. Most people struggle to pay their bills. Most people struggle to get a job. Most people never get promoted, and they come up with 1,000,001 excuses why they can't. I focus on how to be the best and how to do what no one else has done. And that's the guidance I recommend for you. Take the road less traveled. Follow what the top 1 or 2% of income earners in the field do, the 1 or 2% leaders in the field, which is the advice I'm giving you right now. Do that and let everybody else be the average. And unfortunately, they're going to be fighting to try and get ahead. And you're going to be leaps and bounds in a totally different universe. Be the lion, not the kitten. And I love kittens, but I'd rather be a lion.
LinkedIn user, you left out the duration of training in my question. I think we addressed that, but I'll take this on.
Okay.
Normally, the time frame is usually from 6 to 12 months, depending on how you're able to disseminate the information. Quite honestly, it varies. Okay, we've had people blow through this in 30 to 45 days, or when life gets in the way. I myself am a husband and a father, so if I was to do the program again with my type of schedule, it might take me double the amount of time. So ultimately, the average time is 6 to 12 months, but it's up to you about how well you're able to understand the knowledge, be able to disseminate it, present it to us, showcase your competency, show up for the live classes, being able to participate in group projects and be able to showcase how you're able to do this. And once we keep throwing all these cloud architect projects at you and you become bored and you're able to knock this out, you're able to easily be able to talk about the differences between block storage, object storage, what containerization is, you're able to easily break down BGP internally, externally, OSPFs, and a lot of these other routing protocol concepts in a way that non-tech people can understand and apply that in a business transformative way, we'll know you're ready. And then once you're there, we'll start working on your resume, your LinkedIn presence, your interview skills. The community will rally to you, be able to help you fortify your capabilities. And then you're going to be able to start interviewing and getting exposed to hiring managers. And the next thing we know, LinkedIn user, and we'd love to know your name if you could, because I'd rather know who you are instead of calling you LinkedIn user. You're going to be ready, and you're going to be at that point where we're going to hear from you and saying, I got #CloudHired. So it's ultimately up to you. How much can you devote every day? How much discipline can you apply towards your everyday journey to becoming a cloud architect? So it's all up to you. We're going to give you the tools you need to be successful, and we're going to give you that doorway, but ultimately your discipline and ability to do the job through our training program is what's going to walk you through it. Augustine, most job ads require 3 to 5 years experience. How do we start without experience?
Augustine, most jobs for a help desk require 3 to 5 years experience. Most jobs to work at Wendy's require 3 to 5 years of experience, or McDonald's. It doesn't matter. Your competency matters. I told you Ivan Tamba was a waiter before we got him hired, and he had no experience, but he's working for AWS. I told you Coyote had no experience, and he's working for AWS. I told you Jordan Kitco had no experience, and he's working for AWS. I told you Daniel Bosu was working at Nordstrom selling shoes, and now he's working for JP Morgan Chase. I also mentioned Wallace Agana was a sales rep, and he's now an enterprise architect rep, which is even better than a cloud architect, and he had no tech experience whatsoever. Jennifer Emo, who's also at JP Morgan Chase, had no experience but got hired. Noah Parker was a social worker before he got hired. Jeffrey West was a geologist doing some kind of GIS imaging before he got hired by Kellyan. Then we had a retail sales rep last week that got hired. Vladimir was a 24-year-old college student before we got hired. No one cares about your year's experience. Here's the funny thing. Many people will interview someone with no experience. And why will we interview someone? Because we're willing to hire them. We're willing to hire them. Now, once someone proves to us we can't hire them, we have two opportunities, Augustine. We can say, you stink, or come back when you have more experience. So the only time why we ever hear, come back when you have more experience, if someone fails in the interview. It has nothing to do with your experience. It has every bit to do with your competency. I've got a student every day, I don't have my list in front of me, which is why I keep going to the names I know best, that get hired without experience, but it's almost every day. Last week, it was a project manager that got a senior solution architect job. Al Legister got hired by Deloitte as a senior solution architect. Never had a tech job before. Balwinder was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. Got hired by Microsoft. It has nothing to do with your experience, and it has everything to do with your competency. My first tech job, they wanted 10 years experience. I was a senior. I had 0, but I practiced medicine, and I convinced Devendra Manhas that practicing internal medicine was the same as being an architect, because we had to ask our clients questions, we had to figure out their problem, we had to design a solution, present it back to them, and convince them to adopt it. And that's really the thing. All job descriptions have years of experience, but most job descriptions are meaningless. I have never had more than 10% of anything on a job description. And it depends on who writes these. So I want you to understand where the stupid job descriptions come from. Human resources. Now, me and my architect buddies, we earn good, we earn well, and we like our good scotch because we're entertaining lots of clients. And part of being an architect is learning how to pair the right food and wine and scotch, etc. Almost like being a sommelier, or sommelier, depending upon which country you're in and how they pronounce it. And we all would get together on Zoom, and we'd drink Macallan 25. Trust me, it's a beautiful, smooth scotch. If you haven't had some, I recommend some. And once a year, we would literally go drink our scotch and use these job descriptions as a comedy routine. Hey, look at this stupid thing. Hey, anybody ever done this as an architect? No. How about this silly thing? You ever done that as an architect? No, I don't know any architects at any company that do this. Don't worry about job descriptions. Worry about being great, and you'll get any job you want. And don't apply for jobs. If you apply for jobs, you're going to get cut off. Chopped down by the HR terminators. Terminator, like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, you've been terminated. Hasta la vista, baby. No, the HR will just chop you off at the knees. And that's why we use recruiters who put you directly in front of the hiring manager. And the hiring manager can say, Alonzo can do the job or Alonzo can't. So get the right training, build the right competency, build the right brand so the world comes to you. I've got students that are in my program for 3 weeks and they're like, Mike, I got an interview. What do I do? And I say, don't go on the interview because you're not ready yet. If you go on an interview, they won't hire you. Go back when you're ready. Getting an interview is not a problem if you know what to do.
Right. And also remember, Mike, it's like a lot of the HR, they don't even write them. They don't even understand what it's entailed. They're getting it. Imagine someone with a bad copy making another bad copy off of a copy and everything else. So remember that HR, they're pulling it from other articles, not articles, but other postings about a job that they've already gotten wrong. So they're pulling it from here from an inaccurate source, and that inaccurate source got it from an inaccurate source. So they're compounding over and over again the inaccuracies of what these cloud architect roles actually entail. They want 600 years of Kubernetes when Kubernetes wasn't even founded. They want you to have coding when coding has nothing to do with it. So understand that, unfortunately, HR is a very needed resource, but it's usually focused towards the internals, but they don't understand what the job entails because they're not asking the person who needs this role filled what the job should, what this person's skill set should have, and the role that they need to attract the right talent. So from Elaine Baldwin, hello, my background is video and video conferencing systems. Is there a niche for video cloud architects? If so, does your program help target that specificity?
Elaine, 20 years ago, there might have been a niche for video. In fact, I built a good career out of it. Back in the old days where we had like these Tamberg encoders that we were doing digital TV with. In today's world, everybody has video. It's normal. It's no longer a specialty. We can easily get you to be a cloud architect, but it's expected that every cloud architect understands video and unified communications and video conferencing systems. There's not a single architecture in today's world that won't include video. Realistically speaking, all of our architectures will also include artificial intelligence in today's world. All of our architectures will include networking. All of our architectures will include security. That's the difference between being an architect and being an engineer. An engineer focuses on one thing, like video conferencing systems. They can start looking at, how is video calls set up? Is it using a SIP? Is it using SIP for call signaling, etc.? Are we creating an expert network? But no, the only kind of place where you could actually build a career in just video might be Zoom. But as a rule, no. You can't be an architect for just video. 20 years ago, I was a video architect. In fact, I set up voice over IP systems, video systems for cable providers. I set it up in Dubai. I set it up all over the world, but that was 20 years ago. Video is not a specialty anymore. It's pretty normal. Kind of like unified communications. Dial tone used to be a big specialty too. Now dial tone is part of everybody's system. So now it's not going to be an architect. We will help you become a great architect. Now, can you be an architect that's got expertise in deploying unified communications? Yes, but unified communication is more than just voice and more than just video. It's all of it. It's helping a hospital find a neurologist to determine a patient when they have a stroke. It's helping a TV provider set up streaming on demand. It's helping an organization leverage video conferencing and merging mobile phones along with call managers, etc. So it's much bigger than that.
Emperor Cairo. So is there any security architect professionals on YouTube or any platform I can follow or look into?
You can follow us. I haven't found anybody that was a real architect on YouTube other than us. And you're not going to learn what you need to learn on YouTube. I think you have to realize what this career is. A security architect pays as much as a physician or an attorney. You can't learn that on YouTube. You can't. Because there's no way you can put it into YouTube. You must be in a class. You must learn how to design an architecture. You must present your architecture to an executive and have them throw up all over it and say, you didn't present it right. I don't care about this, this, and this. I care about this. You must be able to work with the team because there's an architecture. You must know how to respond to an RFI, RFP, or RFQ. You must know how to write a thought leadership document. You must know how to present with executive presence. Here, look. Hi, my name is Mike Gibbs, and I'm an architect with 25 years experience. Versus, hi, I'm Mike Gibbs. I'm a cloud architect with 25 years experience. It's the same words, but you need to understand it. You need to know how to captivate an audience. You need to know how to message to executives. And you can't find that on YouTube. You can't. I mean, the reality was for me, it took me 2 master's degrees plus an additional $100,000 of executive training and about $40,000 of tech training. That's why I have our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, because most people don't want to spend $300,000 to become an architect. Would I spend $300,000 again to be an architect? You better believe it, because I earned more than that every single year for my entire career, all by spending $300,000 on training. It was no big deal. But it had a great return on investment. But I just want you to understand, this is not a career you develop. You don't become a doctor on YouTube. You don't become a lawyer on YouTube, and we earn as much as they do. So you're going to need real training. I'm not trying to say ours. You can go get an MBA from business school. You can do what I did, and then you could hire an executive coach and pay a couple $100 per session every week for years, which I did. You can take courses on CXO relevancy, which I did. You can take courses on sales, which I did. And by the way, your salary as a cloud security architect is going to be how much stuff you sell. And the more you sell, the better you earn. And we're not talking like a little bit. We're talking like a lot. Want to know the difference? Here's an example job that's from Glassdoor. This Google architect job. The pay range is $394 to $677. I want you to seriously look at that again. $374 to $677. Or $394 to $677. That's almost $300,000 difference between the top paid person and the bottom paid person in the position. That's 100% related to business acumen and sales skills. Just the difference between the top and bottom paid person is $300,000. People on YouTube that have video channels don't even earn $300,000 and wouldn't even know what it takes to earn $300,000 as a rule. Unless you found somebody that's been an executive architect. I was retired because I don't need to work. And I focus my life. It's my life's work to get people the best jobs anywhere in the world. And my staff of people like Chris and Alonzo and experts, they too have sacrificed their time, their effort, and their money to be able to put people in a position where they can get these kind of great jobs. Because for us, it's a mission. That's why we do what we do.
Thank you for helping me sign up. I can't wait to start. Nate, you want to say personally, welcome to Go Cloud Careers. We're definitely happy to be working with you, and we're looking forward to you being exposed and basically brought in by the entire community to celebrate you joining them. So you're going to have an amazing learning experience with us.
Absolutely, Nate. And I hope you can attend tomorrow's class, because I look forward to meeting you over Zoom.
From Adesanmi, hello, Michael. Currently, I have 5% knowledge in cloud technology, AWS to be precise, and interested in getting a remote job as a cloud architect. Please provide your guidance.
We need to get you to 100% knowledge of being a cloud architect, and then you'll have a wonderful architect. Now, 5% knowledge in cloud technology isn't enough. 100% knowledge in cloud technology is also not enough if you want to be an architect. The cloud architect job is 50 to 80% business and 20 to 50% tech. So let's say you have 100% knowledge in cloud technology. You're going to have to design the technology, which is different than knowing the technology. That's architecture. You're going to have to present the technology. Now, that presentation skills training is critical. So you're going to have to become an unbelievable presenter. You're going to have to learn how to sell. And let me tell you, selling a car versus $1 billion architecture are completely different. You're going to have to understand how to connect to executives. You're going to have to learn what are RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, and how to respond to them. You're going to have to learn how to lead a team of people. You're going to learn how to manage stakeholders. That's my recommendation to you. Learn all of that. This is not just tech. And it's sad because I get people that have done master's degrees in cloud computing. They've been cloud engineers for 10 and 15 years, and they only want to learn the tech. And sometimes the hardest people to train are the cloud engineers, and here's the reason why. They take my course and they go to the tech. They skip all the presentation, all the soft skills, all the leadership, all the business. They go straight to the labs, which you could honestly not even do, and they skip all the business piece. And then 9 months later, they say, Mike, why aren't I getting hired? And I said, but I told you on the first day, don't skip the business. This is a 100% business job. And then, poof, they stop focusing on the tech, they focus on the business, and almost instantly, they're hired. I'll give you an example of a gentleman we had. His name was Arun. Love this guy. We'll call him Arun S. Arun was working at Home Depot. He's now working as a cloud architect. He loves it. And Arun decided to get every silly AWS certification you can possibly think of. He learned to code. He was Mr. Techie. And Arun comes to class and says, I can't seem to get hired, Mike. And when I go on interviews, they're not asking me about design. They're asking me about my coding. What do I do? And I said, Arun, do you have a resume? And he says, of course I do. I said, could you send it to me? And he sent it to me. I said, Arun, can I dedicate today's class to fixing your resume and showing the students why your resume will never get you hired and what we can do instead? Arun says, I just want to get hired, Mike. Do what you need to. So my students love when I do a resume class because once they tune their resumes, they get 1,000,001 interview requests. And what I did is I removed his DevOps certification, his SysOps certification, his Developer Associate certification. Then I got rid of all his coding, and I talked about all the things that he's done in his life that enabled him to improve business performance or something else. He had 3 job offers within a month because the key was he did learn the business in our program. He just tried to show the world that he was a techie. And nobody wants a techie as an architect. They want a business transformation specialist. And that's the secret. Chris Johnson and I, as my chief operating officer, get on the phone with VPs of their organizations or chief information officers or chief technology officers, and they say, please don't ever send me a techie. They said, look, I've got lots of engineers that build stuff, but in my architect, you send me a techie, they talk about tech to the customer, we get kicked out of the customer, and they'll never do business with us. We want an executive. I had a director at AWS come to one of my classes to talk about why he loved our program because we had such a focus on business. I have VPs of HR of cloud computing companies that come to our class and talk about why they want to hire our people because we understand the business. So get the free Cloud Architect Job Guide, attend our completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar, and understand that even if you had 100% knowledge in the cloud technology, you won't be ready for the job. You've got to get the business piece. This job marries business and technology together, and you'll be good to go.
From Cyro, can I start cloud at the age of 40 years, or you think I am too old to start? Let me tell you. Go ahead, Mike. Knock it out.
Cyro. Robert Welch was 60 years old when he came to me, and we got him a great cloud security architect. Yeah. Sig Wolf was 63 years old when he came to me. 40 years? You're like a kid. You're going to be in great shape. I get young people hired, and I get older people hired. It's easier to get someone 40 hired than somebody that's 20 hired because you have got some wisdom and experience. And remember what our job is. Our job is to advise the CEO on a strategy and convince the CEO and the CIO that they actually need to buy our billion-dollar technology solution. So it's going to be a lot easier to do it at 40 than 20, but no matter what your age, we can get you there. We've got people in their 60s. Your age is irrelevant. When you're young, you got to show the world how fast and excited you are to learn. When you're 65 years old, you show the world your wisdom and how you can apply that to solve problems. Lonzo, you want to add to that? Because you were going to have as much fun with it as I was.
What can I say? This job is not, there's so much fun to it, be able to solve problems, meet with people, create innovative solutions. How could that be limited to an age group? So your desire to understand the tech, what it is, what it does, when you would use it, be able to meet with innovative people who love architecture just as much as you are and are looking to solve for these for amazing companies. It doesn't matter what age group you are. You just have to bring your determination to learn, continue learning, work with amazing people, being able to adjust to different personalities within different cultures who may do and innovate differently. That's all we ask. But your desire to learn is the one constant that you always need to have for this job. It doesn't matter about your age group. I mean, we've gotten Daniel Bosa was one of our youngest clients. We've got Sig Wolf, we have Robert Welch, and they were into their late 50s and 60s. So it doesn't matter. Just bring your desire to learn and the no quit attitude that we need for you to be successful, and you're going to be in a great space.
So we've got 2 more questions. I wish I had more time, but we've got 2 more, which we'll do.
From Manish, hi everyone. I am a software developer with 2.5 years of experience. Can I be a solution architect?
Of course. So I've given you examples of waiters, shoe salesmen, social workers, psychologists that became them. And I've also gotten software engineers there. It doesn't matter what you've done. It matters the training and the actions you take today. That's the only thing that matters. Your background is 100% irrelevant. Like I said, I used to practice internal medicine. 6 months later, I was a lead architect. It's all what you choose to do and what you choose to learn. What I ate yesterday doesn't affect what I want to do today. I'm a yogi. I like yoga. If I was uninjured and I wanted to learn how to play football, guess what? I would do some different training. I'd hire a football coach and he'd teach me how to play the game. I don't play football. I'm too injured for that after too many martial arts injuries. But the point is, we can learn anything we desire.
And there's another one. I know a lot of people in the military, and you think about people who have experience and they get promoted into higher ranking positions. And then you have those who may not have that rank, but they've been out in the field. They know what works. They know what doesn't work. And that's competency. And a lot of the folks who have been have those higher ranking positions rely on these gentlemen and these people to know how to successfully maneuver, because some of these things might not be in the playbook. Some of these things that they've done has been through trial and error, and they know in real world theater what works. Like I said, what works and what's applicable. So that's the difference between experience and competency. So being able to apply the competency in what you're going to learn with us at Go Cloud Careers is going to significantly uplift what you already know as a software developer. Now, sure, what you've learned is going to be foundational, but we're going to add on, use that foundation and really apply all the things that you need to learn as a cloud architect for you to be successful, Manish. From Praveen, how much salary does a cloud architect with 1 year experience earn per year in the US? Now, I'll tell you, I love the data when it comes to what cloud architects make. And a lot of these salaries are just mind-blowing. So from Glassdoor, a cloud architect with any years of experience with a high confidence because they've talked to people who actually do the job. Currently, and this has been a upward increase since January 1 of this year, is currently at, I believe, $218,565. So you break that down, you're looking at a minimum of $16,000 per month, and you're looking at about $800 or more per day. So when you think about what this development program costs, you can have it paid for with a return on investment in less than a week. So what we're adding here is it creates opportunities for you as a cloud architect. It enhances your career trajectory as a cloud architect to start. So imagine you going up as an enterprise architect, chief information, chief technology officer, and so forth, which commands a even higher triple, quadruple salary. Think about that generational income that it creates for your family by you taking that step to be a client with us. So there's a lot of income that could be made, Praveen.
Yeah, and Praveen, we're seeing starting salaries between $150 and $250 for someone with no experience. But you know what? I'm going to tell you right now. If you approach it as a techie and you act like a techie, we're going to talk about EBS, S3, EFS, you're going to be at $100,000. If you've got good business acumen and good sales skills and good leadership skills, you're going to start at around 170 to 200. So it all depends on how you manage your career. I recently had a sales rep get his first job, never worked in tech before, for about 170. I recently had a newbie to tech. They came from a behavioral health environment. They got around 160 as their first job, and that's with no experience. Now, I've also had people this year with some experience in tech. One person got a $287,000 job. One got a $300,000 job. One got a little over $300,000. The other day, I had somebody get a $404,000 job. But they did have some years experience in tech. But they were only earning about $150 before that, and they were a techie-focused techie, where I told them that you can't focus on the tech, they've got to focus on the business, and added $250,000 a year to their salary. You know, I've got people that'll take a $170,000 job 12 months later, get themselves a $250,000 job. But the secret is how well they communicate, how much they lead. I'm going to give you some secret information to know. Go to salary.com, type or average salary with business acumen, and it's $558,000 a year. Individuals with higher levels of emotional intelligence earn $29,600 more a year over people with less emotional intelligence. Individuals with better communication skills earn more. Individuals with better soft skills earn more. So, Praveen, you want to earn more, learn the tech, know it well, master it. Next, learn how to apply the tech to solve business problems. Our salary is based upon how much we sell. I'm going to say this again. Our salary as a cloud architect is based upon how much we sell. If your $180,000 salary is based upon you selling $40 million of stuff, and you sell $80 million of stuff, you earned another $200,000 a year. So it's based upon you, these architect jobs. How hard you're willing to work, how good your products and solution sets are, and how much you can sell. The more you sell, the more you earn. The more you focus on the tech, the closer you are to an engineer, the less you earn, because the techies are behind the scenes. The business leaders are the cool kids of the business world. The cool kids earn the most. The cool kids get promoted the fastest. Now, what should you do in your life? What makes you happy? I got a friend, Moses. We've been friends for 20 years. This guy loves tech. He loves it. He hates business. So he's been a sales engineer for 20 years. You walk in his house, something says hello to you. You go in another room, the lights auto adjust. He loves the tech. By comparison, I love what the tech can actually do. To me, that's the fun part. So my career did this. His career basically did this, but he was happy. And since he was happy, his life was a 10 out of 10. I was also happy. My life was a 10 out of 10. Here's the one thing you don't want to do. Do something you don't like. Because if you do that, you'll be unhappy. Like I said, I went to school for 7 years and learned internal medicine. It wasn't that I didn't like it. It was hard work. I switched from that to architecture, and sure, I put in long hours. Sure, I've been to every country you can think of. I don't think I've ever worked a day in my life. Ever. People literally paid me to go have the most fun, go meet people, change people's lives and people's businesses, and I had the most fun you can possibly imagine, and that's why I do what I do, so you all can get these super awesome architect jobs and live the life of your dream. I'm going to end on this because we don't really have any time left. Please download the following video ebooks: Why Tech Skills Are Not Enough and How to Become the Ultimate Cloud Architect. Join us on the free Thursday webinar. We can have a face-to-face conversation. We can even interview you. If you want to become a cloud architect, our Cloud Architect Career Development Program will change your life. It's 3 days pay for our average graduate for the entire program. We do it almost as a charitable mission to help you build the best career anywhere in the world. The key is all of you, every last one of you, can have any job or any career you want. All you need to do is have the desire in your heart, a fire burning inside you. Follow the right plan, get the right education, and work nonstop until you get to your goal. All of you can achieve it. It's been an honor to spend some time with you. You got to speak with me. You got to speak with my good friend Alonzo, who also happens to be our Chief Marketing Officer. He and I, almost every night, have our happy dance. Alonzo's better at it than I am because I've got bad feet from a martial arts injury. We have our happy dance when we get somebody hired. And how many times have you been doing happy dancing in the last month?
I've lost count. This has been a great month for our clients to get hired this month. And I know even more are going to happen. It's going to happen for them. So get your happy feet going, Mike.
There we go. So live the life of your dreams. Have a wonderful day and become the ultimate cloud architect.
Thanks for joining, everyone.